Test, 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 test. It's saying that the sound is working. Can you hear me talking over there?
Loading.
Loading. What is this? It says it's giving me the green dots, which... Why is it loading so slow on your end?
I have no idea. Just buffering, still going. Oh, we're good.
Okay.
I've got audio. We're good.
And you can hear me?
Yep. Loud.
All right. Fuck you, YouTube, $1 trillion company for not having this stuff sussed out. The sound did not work. This is the second live stream post that I've done today. The first one I had all set up and perfect, and just the strongest link was the weakest link, and that is the $1 trillion YouTube company. Okay, so in keeping with tradition, we do the weather report as an homage to the great David Lynch. And it was foggy this morning, and now it's not. Okay, so this is how we do this. On the post on Patreon, the announcement post, people leave questions, and then I answer them in reverse chronological order, or in chronological order. I don't know whether it's reverse or if it's chronological, oldest to newest. Oh, why did it do that? I hate computers so much. Oh, why did it do that? Why did it do that? Sorry, I'm having tremendous trouble. They broke. Oh, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. They say that's the definition of insanity, but the real definition of sanity is using a computer again and again and expecting the same results. That is insanity, because these things never... I think it's broken because I got a new iPhone yesterday and they're like punishing me. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is all of this. All right, first question comes from Anthony. And it says, what does your nighttime routine look like? And my nighttime routine is a mess. And I think that's by design. If you heard, I try to have as much garbage time in my nighttime routine as possible. So I finish work before 5 p.m. and my son gets done with his like school or jujitsu stuff at around 5 or so, something like that. And if I finish work early enough, I pick up my boy from school. I guess it's camp now, and take him to jujitsu, or we kind of play a little bit. So my nighttime routine, I think, begins with that. It's like done with work, play, and I sometimes just don't even have enough energy to play appropriately. Like lately, we've been playing a game called Tire. I had an old motorcycle tire in the yard, and we like roll it, and then you have to try to throw a plunger through it without it touching the inner ring of the tire. And then that's like, if my son's playing, it's like 100 points for him. But if I'm playing, it's like 1 point for me. And then lately I've been watching just Curb Your Enthusiasm, just dumb. I just want idiot entertainment to turn my brain off and something funny. And then usually Isabel makes dinner. Sometimes I'll make some food, or we'll go out as a family. The nighttime routine doesn't have much structure to it on purpose, but it's like baby's in the bathtub by like 6:45 or something like this. And then she's to bed. Sometimes I do it. Last night I did the baby, but I didn't dry her. I just did the bath time, and then Isabel dried her and put her clothes on and stuff. And then the baby's in bed by like 7 something. And then my son is in bed by 8. And I read to him. He goes to bed. And then I'm usually exhausted from I'm usually collapsed from exhaustion, but I usually make it until it's dark out, which is, it's summer. So, 8:30 or 9. And then that's my nighttime routine. It's not glamorous. It's just regular American dad nighttime routine stuff. Okay. Michael asks, if you were to make a 3-step guide to storytelling, what would it be? All right. So I took some notes on this, and here it is. Okay. So step 1 is to live interesting and read. That's one step. Live interesting and leave. If you're living in your parents' house like every other person in your generation, get the hell out. Because who the hell wants to listen to stories about the life that they are living? Sometimes I'm watching stuff on TV and I'm like, this thing that I'm watching is way more boring than just me turning the TV off and living my regular life. You don't want to be that kind of storyteller, I don't think. So you got to have an interesting point of view. And the way you do that is by living an interesting life. Okay, so that's the first. You know what? Read David Sedaris because he lives a straightforward life and had an insanely interesting point of view because he came from this crazy family. That's also an option. And it should probably be like, don't bother with the storytelling stuff unless it's a natural inclination for you. Like, I mean, it's you. I think it's got to be but you're probably not interested in it if it's not natural for you. Okay, 2, have funny friends. Funny is rooted in story. Funny means there's a third act, there's a surprise at the end. That's why people are funny. They say things that are funny and it's based on blah, 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 blah. Funny friends. And then the third step is to practice your medium. So maybe you're an oral storyteller. Like, I'm not very good at telling stories, just like talking. I'm good. I need all this fucking bullshit, like cameras and computers and typewriters and editing and but whatever your medium is, maybe you're good at just oral storytelling. Maybe you're a comic book writer. Maybe you're a photographer. Maybe you write short stories or write blogs or make little videos or make music videos or whatever. And then just do that over and over and over again for the rest of your life. Okay, next. This is from Color Photography, who is a man. And his question is, well, what's your thoughts on the Q series, which is, can you just hand it to me? Thanks. I have a co-pilot today, which is the Leica Q. They just came out with the Q3. This is the Leica Q2. And I gotta say, with these Leicas, it's like they don't. Okay, this is my philosophy with these Leicas. Okay, I'm a professional. I have to use cameras every single day, and they can be extremely annoying, especially Sony, because I'm not a technician. And Sony's like designed for technicians. There's too many options, too many menus, there's too many tiny little buttons that your fingers just trip over when you're using the camera. And this is a wonderful object. It's heavy. It's milled from a solid piece of magnesium. It's like made out of steel. I think this, like, the caps are like stainless steel or something. It's so well thought out and ergonomic. All of the manual overrides, all of the automatic settings can be manually overwritten, just like with a manual. Like, this is the focus ring. You just turn this thing and it goes automatically to manual focus. And then this is the aperture. It goes automatically. And then you have like the shutter speed. And then this one is the ISO. So in that regard, and the menus are just like, the menus are so plain, and there's only 5 pages of menus, and they're like pretty damn straightforward. There's only like, you can't choose what MPEG RAW, blah, blah, blah. It's like one format that it comes out, and I love all that about it. They are astonishingly expensive. And that like the jump between a Sony Alpha 7 to the Q, like, you're not getting anywhere near as much. You're not getting detachable lenses. You're not getting anywhere near as much as you're not getting ports to plug in sound, like to plug in a wireless mic or whatever, or to plug in a headphone or any of that. This is and to me, it's worth the insane amount of money to have something that I enjoy having in my hands, that I like get a pleasure, like kind of like a perverse, like it's also, it's like, haha, I did it. I can afford a Leica. And like, making shit with cameras, like the rock bottom cameras all the way up to Leica. Like there's something to that. The image is insanely great. It's so beautiful. I don't know if it's better than the Sony Alphas. Probably not. The lens is really beautiful. That's part of the image, I guess. But there is this, it's like I don't think it's a good value. Let's put it that way. I don't think the Leica Q2 is a good value, but I don't give a shit. Because once you cross a certain threshold, I mean, with these Sony Alphas, I don't know. That's probably kind of all you need at this level for what we do for this stuff. People watching stuff on these screens and watching stuff on, they're not watching stuff in theaters. I think for what you get, the portability and the small file sizes and so forth. And it just came down to like, I have to stop hating these tools. And I was hating I bought a ZV-1 Sony, which I still use. And even the GoPros, while they're great, it's probably like the one, if you're going to buy one camera, get a GoPro. They're just not, they're kind of unpredictable. And they're like, I don't know. They're great. They're waterproof, but there's just something, I don't know. There's something not beautiful about them. So that's my opinion of the Leicas, and they're heavy and you can abuse them. And I never turn it off. It's always on. I never use a lens cap. I never use the lens hood, and it like gets broken in. Like there's a little focus release button that I've covered in cork so I can find it without looking. And it's like getting broken in. So it's easier to switch it into manual. There's like a macro mode that you switch. You like turn this dial and it switches from like regular lens to macro lens. And I just find that like so beautiful, but not a good value because it's so expensive. It's like 3 great cameras. It's like the price of 3 great cameras. And so that's my opinion. Okay. This one's from Lucas. How else? Oh, it says, Lucas says, I feel like a lot of the patrons are fellow creators / makers. Oh, I apologize for being late, by the way. Even though it wasn't my fault, I apologize. I love that you take ideas from comments. I wonder how else we could contribute or chop up ideas, not necessarily just to the channel, but maybe some spirited project. Just hit me in the direct messages on not on Instagram, on Patreon. Was there a specific moment in your life that elevated making money over just making art for you? Having followed you for a while and heard you speak many times. This is from Tristan. I have gotten the impression that that is something that shifted for you over time. Yeah, like if you're feeling like, well, I don't have any motivation, get someone pregnant or get pregnant. Have a kid. It will change everything. It will change your focus. Like doors open. That was it. I think when Isabel got pregnant, it was just like, it like laser focused me. Okay. Lauren, greetings from Ohio. Curious to hear what you're currently reading and or what's on your to be read list. Okay, so I'm reading. It's a little over my head, I gotta say. But I'm reading The End of Everything, which is a history book it's by Victor Davis Hanson, he's a professor at Stanford, like a history professor, and how wars descend into annihilation. And it's about Thebes, Carthage, the Aztecs, and Constantinople, the fall of all of those civilizations. But it's about, civilizations lose wars all the time. Germany lose wars. Germany lost 2 world wars. Germany's still around. This is about the complete annihilation of, this book is about the complete annihilation of civilizations. Like these places are absolutely gone. The languages are gone. The culture is gone. It just total, and that doesn't happen very often, like totally extinguished. And it's about the mistakes that the well, it's about both sides, about the mistakes that the conquered make, and about the I don't know what you'd call it, the successes, or the root of the success of the conquering people. It's awesome. It's pretty good, but it's like a lot of this history. The thing that I find the hardest about history is that all the names mean nothing to me, and there's just so many names, and it's mostly names and dates, and it's like Kasansaris and Bitansaros and the great general Vizansakas and Jastistos and all this stuff, and like the 4th century BC Extispines and all this like shit. Like it's really hard to like have it weighted and have it like grounded in something I can, I don't know, I think in pictures so that I can see or whatever. But I think I'm gonna read the epilogue first, because the epilogue is about like, it's like the warning for today, like what could happen. And then on deck is a book called Everest Inc., about the men and women who made the climbing Mount Everest industry, and it was actually written by one of the dads from my son's school. And I bought my own copy. I didn't get a free copy or nothing. So it's Isabel stole it, so she's been reading it. She says it's really good. All right. So next, in my experience, okay, Stephen asks, in my experience, most Americans and especially men seemed ill-equipped to explore and process their feelings around the death of loved ones. What are some of your strategies for coping with grief? You know, thank God I haven't really lost any people. I mean, who like, I haven't had a devastating loss, thank God, in my life, like a big earth-changing one. So, you know, I just, when someone dies, I try to make it to their funeral and just go through I mean, that's what the funeral's for, is to like go through the grieving process, talk to the people about it. I have like private crying sessions where I just cry and think about positively about them. And it's funny, when someone dies, you can't, I mean, this is for me, when someone dies, I can't really remember any of the negative things about them. It just instantly, all the fucking wonderful things come to mind. But yeah, so I'm not really equipped for that. And also I'm a little bit of I am a little bit of a sociopath when it comes to people. Like I don't really miss people that like deep viscerally. I miss them intellectually, but you know, I don't know where that comes from. That's some kind of, I don't know, some adaptation. Max, is it possible to maintain first order retrievability of items in a refrigerator in your domestic life as well as in your workshop? Well, if your partner is willing to go along with it, yes, it certainly is. But if not, you're just going to be sabotaged by people around you. We're pretty organized with all that stuff, with the kitchen stuff, but I'm like I'm Stalin, and like I will use all of my linguistic gifts to shame and belittle the purchase of like a stupid effing appliance. I hate appliances. This stirs the milk. This steams the milk. This stores the milk. This is what I use to pour the milk. Like, what do you live in, an 80,000 square foot kitchen? I want like a whisk is kind of like the biggest thing a kitchen should have. Iron skillet, copper pot, and then like one more pot. That's it. That's all you really need. Glass measuring cup, stainless steel bowl to mix things in. But yes, there's this woman named Myra Kalman who's she's an established artist, and she's done a bunch of like New Yorker covers. Her son is a good friend of mine named Alex, and Myra has this house up in Saugerties, New York. She has a waterfall in her front yard, a real no shit, like 10,000 gallons per second waterfall in her front yard. It's that's what you fall asleep to at this place. It's just a regular like middle class house, you know. It's not a big mansion or anything. And her pantry and kitchen are absolutely perfectly organized. Like no pot bangs into another pot when it's removed from the shelf that has ample room for all of the different pots and pans. And then all of the hanging things come perfectly off the hook without banging into anything. All of the beds are stripped when you get to the house, but there's like the chest of drawers with all the, or maybe they're all made when you get to the house, but there's like, the rooms are completely empty. There's no knickknacks, nothing. But like in the drawers and stuff are like the towels that you need and so forth. There's a room with just a ping pong table in it and like the ping pong stuff that you need, like ping pong paddles and ping pong balls. That's it. Nothing else. Beautiful room in this like old, house, like wooden northeastern style house. And that degree, I mean, that's the dream for me. That's the dream. That just beautiful, like shaker austerity. This is a good question. T. James asks, in your experience around successful people, what have you found to be the ratio of competence to confidence? And this is a good question because the successful people I know, for the most part, did not come up through the regular system of like, I was a straight A student. I got into Yale, then I went to MIT, then I went to whatever, JPL. Like those aren't most of the people that I know that are successful had to like mine their gifts out of rock and then go and figure it out. So what have you found to be the ratio of competence to confidence? So I would say they are twice as confident as they are competent. In other words, like I worked with Josh Safdie on a movie. Like the first time I met Josh Safdie, like we hired him to, Josh and Ben, but Josh was way worse. We hired them to shoot this documentary that my brother and I made about my grandmother. And Josh's footage was at once the worst footage. It was like shaky and just like spastic. And it was also at once the best because he would catch these details that you just wouldn't think of are any significance at all. Right. But that guy, I don't know at what age I met him. He was 22 years old, I think. And from then on, he was, I will be a feature filmmaker. And I don't think that was a new dream. I don't think that was something he had just come up with. And his confidence, he just bang. It's not, I don't think confidence necessarily comes from competence because you're not born competent at anything. I think it's the other way around. I think it's like you cultivate a confidence at like when you're little and somebody has to help you, like your dad and your mom and stuff has to help you be like, I constantly am telling my son how when he's afraid to do something, I'm like, come on, you're brave. You're brave. It's okay. You're supposed to be afraid. You're brave though. You're going to do it. And he does it. I got him to ask for, anyway, we were at a party. We weren't at a party. We were at a restaurant. There was a graduation party there. There was a table full of brownies. He wanted a brownie. I was like, go ask one of the girls for the graduation party. And he tortured himself because he was so chicken shit to do it. But then he eventually manned up. He's 5. He's done. I've seen him do that for a lot of stuff. Anyway, you can be your dad of that and just, there's something you really want to do. You are not allowed to let fear hold you back. If fear holds you back, God help you. If fear holds you back, I got nothing to say to you because, get over it. But I'd say it's 2-1 confidence over competence. But that's just the people I know. And then I know people who are, Rizal Tanjung, the like legendary surfer from Bali. But I didn't know him when he was a kid. I've only known him as a grown man. And he's insanely competent. Okay, Rodrigo asks, what's your favorite analog DIY animation trick or prop, either because it looks cool or is fast or gives you more bang from your buck or whatever? I like puppetry. I like making little models of stuff. And like, it's so much easier to do puppetry, like with sticks and stuff and moving stuff around. I haven't been doing this much anymore. Stop motion is such a pain in the neck, and it's such a pain in the neck. I guess they have software now for your phone and stuff that'll just automatically just fire the picture, and then you can move and it'll move. That would be kind of great. But I don't know. I think I need to offload that to other people. Like if I'm going to do animation or something, I think somebody else do it because it's super, super, super time consuming. I don't have a particular trick, I don't think, besides model making. And okay, Alex asked, any tips on consistency and time management when it comes to making videos and coming up with ideas simultaneously? I work a full-time job, so my time is limited throughout the week. From the writing all the way to finishing and edit, it all takes so much time. So I struggle to publish even once a month. Yeah, I'm the same. And this is the only thing I do professionally, and I'm the same. Tips. I mean, the one that I always come to is, it's not really a time management thing, but it's like, do not start a second project until the project at hand is complete and done and published, or just done. Like, don't keep toying with it and making. That's one thing. But no, this is just slow work, and it doesn't even get faster. Like I feel like I'm not faster. I'm more efficient, but then I'm just I'm leveraging that efficiency for some part of the process. Sometimes I'm faster, but generally no. So Smoky Moose asks, how do you deal with frustration? Oh, okay. So without wanting to sound like the tortured artist, there are so many ideas floating about in my head, books I want to read, places I want to see before I'm too old and too tired to appreciate them, but I can't keep myself mentally still enough to think about the best way to do it all. Okay, so for that particular problem, you just have to write all these things down on like a piece of paper that says places I want to go at the top, and then just list them. New piece of paper. Books I want to read at the top, write them down. Ideas, write it down, and then you just clink one at a time, just like the videos, one at a time. And it doesn't have to be in order. It's one at a time, but it doesn't have to be in the order that you wrote them down. Maybe you do the easiest one first. What's the one? And then you get all the skills from doing, like, if it's a travel thing, do the easiest one first. I want to go see, I don't know if you lived in LA, I want to go see Joshua Tree National Park. It's like 2.5 hours away, and then you go crank up a little bit more difficulty, and then just one at a time. Click, 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 click. That's what I say. So Josh asks, do you make videos as gifts for friends/family? For a while I was making Super 8 films of like weddings and stuff, and then putting them in the little cartridges and then giving them away. And people really love that. But it's so time consuming. It's so hard. It's so hard and time consuming. But I haven't done it in a while. Plus, everyone's kind of old, so the weddings are kind of my peers and stuff. So the weddings are kind of subsided. But yes, not as much as I should. But these things, it's still a lot of work, as you know. So George asks, just watched your recent video, Mastery. So inspiring to see you get that wheelie at the end. Oops, spoiler alert, sorry. I could feel what it meant to you. Any lasting injuries? And if there was another skill/hobby you would love to master, what would it be? No lasting injuries. I just got a road rash on my arm from doing a wheelie without wearing a motorcycle jacket and crashing. No lasting injuries. Skill hobby I would love to master. Oh my God, there's so many. I wish I was like a master at surfing. I wish I was good enough at it. I'm still in the misery phase of learning, and I'm too old and weak, like mentally weak to wanna, and I don't have the desire enough to like push through that part, but it's just miserable for me. So that would be something nice. Or tennis would be great because it's so social. And I really like people. I generally like people who play tennis. Like the people I like generally, no, not that way around. The people who play tennis that I know, I generally like. My brother Dean is like a tennis champion. And God, I go watch him to play tennis, and he just looks like you're watching and I know you're not, but it just looks like you're watching a pro tennis player. Like they don't make the dumb mistakes. Like everything is going really fast and it goes over. It's like a slightly out of bounds, or it barely hits the net and doesn't go over. So probably those two things, surfing and tennis. Are you starting to baby your, oh, this is from ARJ. Are you starting to baby your Land Cruiser as it's getting older and needing more TLC in respect to the parts wearing out? Is this your primary go-to vehicle still? I'm doing precisely the opposite. So I have the Land Cruiser has a new engine, new transmission, new exhaust, new braking system, and new like upholstery, new carpeting. With the new engine, you get the new air conditioner, and so it's almost a new car. And I just beat the hell out of it. The only time it's ever like broken down on the side of the road was because I had gone something like 10,000 or 15,000 miles too long on the same fuel filter and air filter. So I cracked open, took the air filter out. It was just full of like rat hair. It was like black and full of rat hair. And then I happened to have another fuel filter. And I just like, you fill it up with diesel fuel, you screw it in, pump, there's a little pump and it pumps all the air out. And then it took a couple cycles like driving the car and it would just like bog down and then turn it off. And after like 2 or 3 of those cycles, it just reset the computer code, the like fuel injection computer thing. And now it's been working absolutely perfect since, but I drive it really hard. But that was like a little too far, that too much neglect. I change the oil every whatever you're supposed to, 5,000 miles or whatever. And, after this air filter thing, I downloaded the scheduled maintenance and that's what I'm going to do. But this engine it's like a industrial delivery truck engine. So it's pretty bomb proof. But yeah, no, I do not baby it. And I'm really liking that it's patinaed and like I like the condition. Like I don't need to get it painted. I'd like to soundproof or sound deaden. I'd like to strip out the whole interior and put Dynamat, not myself, have somebody else do it. Dynamat it and like whatever to get it, because it's not like motorcycle loud. It's not like monster truck loud, but for everyday driver, passenger vehicle, it's pretty effing loud. It's like driving around in an old Jeep. So I'd like to do that. But as far as it like aesthetically, it's perfect. Even though it's getting like little tiny rust spots here and there, I'm like, no, this is cool. This is what it's, I like it like this. So no, I'm not babying it at all. So DECF, hi Van, Faith from the Netherlands. What strike me and what I really like is that almost everything you have is labeled with dates on it. And your rooms and stuff are organized. Do you need this to calm your mind and keep everything in order? Are you naturally organized, or do you really need this because otherwise you will not function properly and be busy in your head? I wasn't naturally organized. I'm not sure if many people are. And then I just discovered that, yes, I needed everything to be organized, especially to make this stuff is so complicated to make. The videos are complicated and you need lots of tools and they all have to be, when you get in your like creative trance, you want to just automatically reach for things. You don't want to have to look for things and where is the blah, blah, blah. So that's part of it. And like, I have a lot of like complicated little hobbies. Like the motorcycles are complicated. I keep 2 motorcycles on my Land Cruiser and they have to be secured. And then you need equipment for those. You need helmet, you need batteries, you need blah, 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 blah. So everything has to be organized or you're just chasing your own tail. And then, I want my next like ambition is a big physical space, which I had 1,000 square feet in the Bronx for a couple years and that was pretty big, but I've never really had a big ever, my whole life ever, not once, a huge physical space to my own that I could organize. And I'd really like that. Because I'm too like living in a sailboat or living in a Manhattan apartment. Like that's why it looks so cool, but it's like too efficient. I need bigger space to be a little bit more efficient. And a little bit less of a process to do, like putting everything away and taking things out. It's kind of like camping or something. Okay. Augustine asks, hi, Van. Shop class as soul class changed my life. I recently bought Why We Drive, but haven't started it yet. Have you read it? I have read it. I didn't finish it. It's good. It's about Crawford's relationship with this Volkswagen that he's restoring. And then he just kind of goes about telling these anecdotes from people who have lives that are kind of built around cars and stuff. Like racers and, amateur racers. And it's cool. It's cool. I like it. It's from Gabriel. What advice do you have for an aspiring filmmaker with no previous experience or education in the creative arts? Oh, just make as many films as you can. You have everything you need. Don't adhere. Don't. How do I say this? Don't. Okay, so there's a whole okay. How do I say this? This is something I think about a lot because I get these questions a lot. That's why I made this. Are you really a filmmaker? I made that video. You can't possibly first of all, you're probably not a pioneer. And you can't possibly plan and predict the next new thing, but you can do the next new thing by just doing your thing. So no one knew that you would be able to, when YouTube came out, no one knew that you'd be able to make a career by making YouTube videos. No one knew that. But there were some of us who were just making these things that ended up being appropriate to put on YouTube, right? It was like a unconscious, we were all doing it. The guys who invented YouTube were doing their thing at the same time we were doing our thing, and we were all kind of coming up together. The thing that you can't, if you're asking me this question, okay, the thing that the person who is asking me this question cannot, it's as possible as winning the lotto, which I think is impossible. You cannot break into the studio system and make Pulp Fiction or whatever the new version of that is. This isn't the 1990s. You cannot go and make a multi-million-dollar thing. That's not you. And that world is not the world you think about it, that you think it is. That world of I'm going to make a whatever multi-million-dollar movie with movie stars that I've heard of in it, that plays in theaters and on Netflix and all of that stuff. That world is more like I'm going to run for Senate or congressman. It's that's the kind of world that you're dealing with. You are dealing with you have to be extremely good at, first of all, you have to be an extreme creative talent, extreme. And you have to also be dynamite with navigating power structures and manipulations and this guy screwing. You have to be like a 4D chess player, and you have to be really, really good at raising vast amounts of money. You want to be a filmmaker, from scratch filmmaker. When I see filmmaker, I mean, I don't read cinematographer or technician or something like that. Those careers you can go out and get. They exist, and those people are needed. But I'm talking about from scratch, you're making a film that you write and you want to make, blah, blah, blah. That era of the movies that we love from the 90s, that era is long, long, long over. Mr. Beast struggled to get his thing on Amazon. Mr. Beast. 240 million subscribers, and he had to go from streamer to streamer to get the deal he wanted. That's the waters you're in. You're dealing with millionaire and billionaire children who want to make films, who want to make, Megan Ellison, who makes all the Wes Anderson films. Her father's Larry Ellison, the guy who started Oracle. She's a billionaire's kid. And that's what that world is now, except now it's international. Now it's Saudi money. Now it's, Emirates money. It's It's not, I'm a talented artist and I'm going to go and work within the cinema medium. YouTube is a completely different world than that. And YouTube, you have just about 100% freedom. You can't, they have their guidelines for content. Like, you can't say that Fauci was a bad guy, and you can't say that masks don't work, and there's that kind of stuff, But I mean, YouTube to me is astonishing. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to like graduate from what I'm like, the super successful guys who are working in this space, and then they would want to go up and do like feature films and stuff. I'm like, why are you doing? You're just taking a step backwards. So my advice to an aspiring filmmaker, like a from scratch filmmaker, just make as many films as you want. Make one film a month for a year, at least, start to finish, with whatever equipment you have. The equipment is almost meaningless. Your phone is plenty good enough. And the thing that you need to concentrate on is the structure of the videos or whatever that you're making, and they have to be compelling and interesting. But just keep making over and over again, more and more and more and more. And you could discover maybe you don't want to. There's really no excuse to be an aspiring filmmaker anymore. There's no reason for that phrase. There's no reason for aspiring filmmaker. You have a phone. Unless you don't have a phone, unless you don't have a camera, which there's billions of cameras now, you could go steal one and no one would really care. You go to a thrift shop and find a phone or a camera for, I don't know, $50 or something. So, yeah, there's no need to be aspiring. Just start making them. And going pro is like, you've got 10 years. It's going to take you 10 years to go pro. So I don't know how to advise you on how to go pro now, because it's a dynamic industry and everything's always changing. So I don't know. Leo asks, oh, can you tell us about your everyday carry and the things that go with you on your body, in your bag, and why? Okay, so I carry a piece of paper folded into fours with Post-it notes on them. And then that's where I keep notes and I don't remember what that drawing is. Oh, that's a drawing of Spain in the south of France. And then that's this little town called Port Boo that's on the border. No. It's on the Spanish side of the border. And I'm just wondering, what's that town over there in France? Anyway. So I carry that. I carry a phone in like the ruler pocket of my Carhartts. I carry this pencil. It's in my pocket right now. I used to carry a Swiss Champ, but then I broke the pliers, so now I carry this thing. And also this has a nice defensive blade. It's a good weapon, and I don't think that the Swiss Champ is a very good weapon. And then what else? Oh, this thing. I always have these, the earbud things, because I'm always listening to podcasts. That's about it. Okay, Paula asks, what is your opinion on how engagement on YouTube is going and what other creatives you speak with are saying? Yeah, I think we're in kind of a golden age of YouTube, and I think the artists are starting to use it as a platform, and I think we're going to start seeing really insanely amazing work. Yeah, I think IMI, the Independent Media Initiative in Austin, like they're cultivating and seeking the really high quality YouTube content makers, and I think that that's going to force multiply the like real deal creative people who just are going to do this no matter what. My personal engagement, I had Braxton made some YouTube shorts that like one of them did like 5 million. I think he's gotten like 7 million views with the shorts he's made since he's been in town for the last 3 weeks. So I'm pretty psyched about that. But it's never enough. So Neil asks, apart from Mexico, which we all know you love, what other countries have you enjoyed traveling around? And Neil is from Stockholm. I traveled through Sweden when I was like 21, and I'd never been outside of the country. And I was on a train from Paris. It's a series of trains from Paris to Oslo. I really loved Oslo. It was one of the first countries, but this is Oslo in 1997 or 1996. And I loved Norway because I got to travel around. The gal I went to Europe with, who was my girlfriend at the time, her father was Norwegian. I believe she had a Norwegian passport. And we just went and saw grandparents and cousins, and we went up to the, Arctic, almost to the Arctic Circle. And I got to see a lot of that country. And I thought, I was just blown. I was born in Maine, and it's vaguely similar kind of thing. And it's, I remember not remembering that it's, the land of the midnight sun, and being up like with her little cousins at 2:00 in the morning, and it was just like dusk out, and it's like, it's 2 a.m. guys, we gotta go to sleep. But that was, I was so young, so many years ago. I love what I've seen of Austria. I love Austria. I think that's a wonderful country. Switzerland's really cool. France is the fanciest place in the world. Sorry, it's true. France is the fanciest place in the world. It's insanely incredible. The food, the people are great, even though they have a bad reputation. Americans suck. And Americans are, generally speaking, when I see Americans traveling, they're very obnoxious and loud and gross. And so maybe, the French are just sick of those people. But if you have, if you're a decent person, it's a great place to go. I love France. I love Spain. Spain is super, super friendly. People super helpful. I really love Europe. Tanzania was wonderful. Zanzibar. Yeah, yeah, those are some of the places I love. Those really stick out. Japan, man. It's not only perfect, it's cheap. Japan is so cool. Okay, hi Van. This is from Marek. Greetings from Poland. You've spent a lot of time in Berlin in 2003 with all the 21-year-old interviews with the Americans in Berlin. What was your experience of Berlin, maybe in comparison with post 9/11 USA? Yeah, my sentiments were sort of the same as what the people in those interviews say. Because I was coming from New York, post 9/11 New York, which, like, the hammer came down after 9/11. It got seriously unfun, everybody. And it wasn't solely, it was more the people than it was the authorities and the security apparatus. It was more, and it wasn't so much the New Yorkers who became kind of militant and like, you can't shoot here. This is a soft target. Like, you can't film video with a shitty handy cam video camera. This is a soft target, at gas stations and stuff, and the paranoia and I just found the chief thing about Berlin was that it was like a little bit chaotic because, it was like still in the kind of the first decade or so of the reunification. And so places were cheap to live in. It's like the ingredients for, it was like, it was secure. It was a good civilization with good food and restaurants and stuff. It was cheap to find a house. There were opportunities if you were clever. And these are all Gen Xers. These are badass Gen X kids. And there's opportunities to chase and, and figure it out. And so it was like a real hotbed there was this hyper creativity everywhere. Everybody was doing all this really super cool stuff everywhere, like super cool creative bars, super cool creative restaurants or clubs or parties or film, ad hoc film festivals thrown together, or graffiti exhibitions, and I hate graffiti, but or what have you, just whatever, light projections and dance parties and, things on boats and in old abandoned kindergartens and things in the woods, but old abandoned Eastern Bloc Russian buildings in the woods that nobody knew about with like pirated electricity. It was just, And the authorities, the cops and stuff were reasonable. They weren't, they were just like, come on, turn it down. they weren't adversarial. Let's put it that way. It was like they were in it with us. I just watched a documentary about the reunification. What the hell was that? Was it a documentary? And it was like the day that the announcement, it was just this confusion. What the hell was that I watched? There was just this confusion of like, there was like a press conference and some guy like chancellor or whatever of East Germany said, no, the wall, whatever, it's open. It's like, we can't secure it anymore. And just all these kids just like poured out into the streets, and they got to the guards and like, no, it's open. And the guys were like, okay. And then they just poured through, and it was just like, yeah. And these were those people, that were there in Berlin at the time. God, that must have been something. That must have been so cool. Anyway, okay. August asks, in a previous live stream, you mentioned doing a video on your foldable 4-foot table. I have a picture of it right here. And then he asks, is this still an idea? I think this is a fast idea for me to do for a video, to make one. So it's just like one of those folding tables you get at Costco that are really great. And then you can see that there's 1/4-inch plywood on top, and it's sliced across the table so that you can fold the table, but it sags in the middle. And so I just use a 1/2-inch tight. I use a 1/2-inch on top, 1/2-inch plywood on top. It makes it kind of heavy, and then it can't fold. It just folds like, but yeah, I probably will do something about that, but it's a cool, handy thing to have. Okay, Sebastian asks, I've always wondered how you get the very detailed essayistic writing done. Is it a matter of deep observation? Do you rewrite your drafts a lot, or do you let others read it and feedback you? Never. My question is, what are the tools and methods for pointed and sharp writing? Okay, so this is what I do. I have this notebook thing that I carry around with me, and then if I get a flash of something that could work as a video or something, I just write it down. And then when enough of those collect, I write the idea down on a separate like Post-it note with the date, and I underline it. This is a question. This is one of the questions from the live stream, which is also a good idea for a video, 3-step guide to storytelling. And then I put that on a 8.5-inch by 11-inch, letter sized piece of paper. And I file it. I wish I could wait. Let me look at the camera. Wait. This little box, right? Wait. This little box above my finger with the paper that has all the yellow things on it. Those are all ideas for videos. And that's like this thick of paper. There's hundreds in there. And so I'll just like add notes to those as they come to me. Add like little notes to like an idea. And then when I'm ready, I kind of just pull one out, and then I look at the notes, and it takes an hour of like futzing around, just writing out notes before something starts to go. And the thing about videos is people say, well, this is what I think. So people say, I have an idea for a video, right? But the video is 3 ideas. Okay, because you have the beginning and the middle and the end is a simple way of putting it. But you have like, a video about screws. If you want it to be interesting, it isn't about just screws. It's also about the application of the screw to the project that you're building, which is a monitor mount on your overhead shooting table. So that's the second thing it's about. And then the third thing about is like, I don't know, the process of using the process of organization of the screws or something. I don't know. So to find those 3 things, those like 3 plot points or whatever, that's just writing. That's just writer's work, habit writing. sitting at the typewriter, bang, bang, bang. I'm always trying to find the structure. I'm always trying to find, okay, this happens then, this happens then, this happens then. And that's kind of how I do it. And it took a long time to figure all that out. But this takes a lot of time. Leonardo da Vinci asks, howdy, Van. I just rewatched your Chloe video and was wondering if you ever reconnected with her in Mexico. I haven't. She visited, though. She came and visited with her little boy, and we hung out. I was so stressed out. I need to like extend and get in contact with her because I was so stressed out. I wasn't very pleasant. This is like kind of early days of the channel, but yeah. So I've seen her since, and our kids hung out together. They really got along. Geez. Okay, so this is a long one from Vincius. Okay, so the question's at the bottom. Does it make sense in today's age to try and actually work for him, meaning Tom Sachs? I don't know. He's got to be drawn to a close with his system, and he's probably, I hope he's scaling back. I don't know. I think the problem that he's had, I don't know. I'm just speaking from an observatory, as an outsider observing sort of his problem. The problem, I talk to him, once a month or so, is like there was a very giant shift between the Gen X work ethic, which is what he started out with, was his kind of his cohort. And now he's on his like third generation of workers. So he had the millennials and they were a little different. And now he's got these Gen Zers. And the problem, I think people aren't interested in being tough and brave anymore. I think there's a lot of, especially in the creative fields, people often use their creativity to avoid confronting certain life necessities that they're not good at. Like maybe it's bravery and maybe it's strength and maybe it's being orderly. But you kind of have to be all those things to work for him. You have to be like, that's the covenant. It's like there's tens of thousands of people who want to work for this guy. And the reason you have the opportunity to work for this guy is not because of your talent, it's because of your character. And I think there have been a bunch of people who have sort of like not fulfilled their end of the bargain in that respect. Because I worked with him at his worst, when he was at his worst, and meaning his most difficult, and most like demanding and most balls in the air and stuff, and the highest stress and the less. And he wasn't, he's a human being like all of us, and he hadn't learned how to deal with all of the success and the people tugging at him everywhere. And so he was very stressed out and demanding, and the projects were big and they were high consequence. So and then I've seen the era, I've worked in the studio and seen the era that the people who wrote that very lame hit piece in the New York Magazine, I was around for that era. And they were basically saying, oh, this guy's hard to work for. It's like, okay, well, there's 80 trillion businesses that are not hard to work for. You've chosen perhaps the most competitive, the fine art industry, perhaps the most competitive and cutthroat business that exists. And you're complaining that the person who's like one of the people's who has competently navigated it for 30 years, that person is difficult. Well, the reason you're here is to learn how to be strong and work in difficult situations and pull the greatest diamonds out of yourself that you can. So, I don't know. I think he's probably has his team, and I think that if you really want to do anything, you can do it. So if you really like hounded him and figured it out and blah blah blah, you could probably get a job there. But like, be prepared. You're going to medical school. You're going to BUDS. You're going to basic underwater demolition school or whatever, SEALs training. That's what you're signing up for. You're not signing up to be hobnobbing with Kate Moss and hanging out with all the rich people and staying in the awesome hotel. Might happen, and staying in the nicest hotels in the world and doing all the museum and the openings and the best food and and Miami Basel and all the parties at the mansions and stuff. You are signing up for buds. You're signing up for carrying boats, and it's hard, and it's extremely psychologically hard, and it's super difficult. And that's the point. That's why the work is excellent. So you have to, how tough are you? How tough are you? And if you are tough and interested in getting tougher, and then maybe go see if you can get a job there. But I don't know. It's really hard. Okay, you seem it's from Jacob. You seem very spiritual. What books or people do you go to for spiritual guidance, if any? I'm very involved in like alcoholics. Not very, but I'm involved regularly, multiple times a week in Alcoholics Anonymous, and those are kind of my people. And that's like kind of a spiritual program. And then for like big questions, I have a old friend who's an Orthodox Jew, and the thing about Judaism is like it's much less spiritual than it is just like a really deep owner's manual for life. Like all the questions are there. They're all in the Talmud and the Torah. Like, my wife can't get pregnant. What should I do? That question's in there. Like my wife's makes all the money and she's enslaving me. What should I do? That question's there. Like it's very practical, but it's so deep that it has a spiritual quality to it. And then, there's a rabbi who lives down the street. I did a little video with him. I've asked him about, is it still count as like a good deed if you are doing it for selfish reasons? And yes, it does. It counts as a good deed, even if you're doing it for selfish reasons. Okay, this is a great question. James asks, what is the best thing to do after a breakup? All right. So in my New York era, when I was working at 368 Broadway with my brother, and everybody was in the building, the Safdies were in the building, and and Alex Kalman, who I just mentioned, was in the building, like that whole gang, the Schulmans, Neve Schulman, Ariel Schulman, Henry Juice, that whole gang of people. We call it the Diane Fink School. We had like a protocol for when somebody broke up with and this sounds gross, but there were a lot of girls. There was a lot of girls and girl activity. And there was a lot of breakups and new girls and all of this stuff. It was a dynamic thing. And so we had this thing. I think my brother kind of invented it. And we had this like when somebody broke up with somebody, we had this little like protocol that we would do. And part of the protocol was okay, so let's say I've broken up with somebody and I'm at the studio. My brother would, and we had a good sound system in there, he would just blast every once in a while when it was appropriate. God, we did this. We started doing this at Tom Sachs's studio. We started doing this when we were working at Tom Sachs. He would just blast the Sinead O'Connor version, very important, the Sinead O'Connor version of Nothing Compares to You, which is like the girls' side of the breakup, but it's written by a guy because it's a Prince song. And it's like, since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. So that's part of it. Just over and over that song, and like kind of getting so that you're over the song, because the song like tears you through it. It crushes your soul. Nothing can take away these blues, but it's about the process of getting through it. And then there's this game called Guitar Hero, and then there was also called Rock Band. I would just fucking play that incessantly. And then the grief, the like heartbreak, I would allow to sublimate into exhaustion. And then I would just submit to the exhaustion and take a lot of naps and just sleep in and sleep. Spend as much time as all of the spare time with the bros, with the guys. No girls, fucking keep them away from me. Just with the guys. And they would take care. There was like a covenant. They would take care. And it was like we would go guy to guy. I'd be, take them out. We go to dinner, and you just kind of don't talk about the girl at all. Don't talk about that world. Don't talk about that stuff. And then, in that realm, all of us were workaholics. So we would just, with any problem, we would just work through it. We would just work harder. We would just work. But those initial days where you're just on your knees, heartbroken, and you can't function, those are like the Sinead O'Connor, that's not even a week. It's like the Sinead O'Connor playing, and then also playing the heartbreaking songs on GarageBand. And then everybody, ideally, I mean, this was an ideal situation with all our best friends all doing the same shit. It was like insane. It was wonderful. We had like the drum kit. There's like a guitar, drum kit, and microphone, and we'd have like a little. It was so fun, and that was that would get you through it. So that Guitar Hero, restaurants, hang out with the bros. Nothing compares to you. That's how you do it. That's the best thing to do after a breakup. Have you ever filmed a wedding? Yes. Multiple. Would you if asked? Sure, but I don't want to do all the editing and all that stuff. I'll hand you the SD card, and that'll be the end of it. If you were to be a professor, and I would only do that for a friend. I'm not doing that like professional. I'm not going to go be a stranger at a wedding. I don't like weddings. So if you were to be a professor and you could only teach a single course for the entirety of your tenure, what would it be? This is from John Lewis. And Jacob asked me the wedding question. What would the syllabus look like? Which books, film subjects would be required? Oh my God, come on, guys. There's other people here. This is like 5 questions. How do you design? Okay, it's 1 question. What would I teach? I think I would just teach like, God, I hate college. The best part of college, you don't need college for, is just a bunch of smart people living in a kind of a community, reading good books. But I don't know. I think I would just teach like life skills, like how to be alive, and just the books. I don't know. I don't know what books I would teach. A syllabus would be like, you have to make $10,000 to get an A in the class. You have to make $10,000 doing something. And then I don't know, just that stuff. I think that's what I would teach. How to be broke. Maybe the class would be like how to live well broke. Maybe that's the class I would teach. When will the Spirited Man? Oh, Christian asks, when will the Spirited Man work shirts be available? Maybe this holiday season, I hope. We'll see. It's kind of low priority for me because it's just a break-even endeavor for everybody. So it's like, okay, this is a good question. Regarding vacations or trips, do you have any opinions or insights about taking trips to the same place or repeat experiences? I go to the same places over and over again if I like them, but there was an exploratory period in my 20s and 30s where I was going to all these different places, mostly for work, I think, that enabled me to discover these places that I wanted to return to. So it's I think that's the way to do it, is you have to do a like sort of a hyper exploratory phase of your traveling, because you're probably going to live to be 100 years old or something. Hyper exploratory phase where you're just going variety and quantity of experiences, of different experiences. And then pick repeat. I just want to say this one thing in regard to traveling is like a lot of people, I don't know. I applaud anyone who goes through the trouble of traveling to foreign countries, but there's an instinct that most people have, and I'm talking about Americans here, where they want to go to a place because it's the least foreign to them. They want to go to a foreign country because it's the least foreign to them. Like I always wanted to go to England. Why? No offense to you English people out there, but come on, you're from the United States of America and England is the place you're going to go to. England is the size of Idaho, by the way. No offense to you, Braxton. I would say I would advise go to like weird When you're new, don't go to India. Not extremely different. Nothing is the same, including the letters. I wouldn't do that if you're new to foreign travel. But like, don't go to England if you haven't seen 5 national parks in America. Like, do that first, because or like, oh, Australia, you're gonna spend all that money to go all the way over there to Australia. It's gonna just be America Junior. Go to Japan. In fact, that should probably be like the first. Continental Europe's awesome, and Japan's awesome and cheap. It's like inexpensive. They have a demographic collapse there, so everything's cheap. It's fantastic, cheap and compared to New York and LA. I mean, okay, so that's that question. Steven asks, have you ever had something stolen from you in your travels? Yeah, not really. I had a pair of Nike's running shoes stolen when I was in Mexico, but were they stolen? Because I'd like let them out to dry. So it wasn't like I'd left them like out to dry on my porch. So it wasn't like they didn't have my name on them. So I don't know. But that's the only thing I can really think of. Daniel asks, I'm not a sticky note guy, but I figure that index cards fit into my life the same way sticky notes have for you. What is your relation to index cards? I love index cards. You can get 5x6 index cards. I'm sorry, 4x6 index cards, white, that slide into the 4x6 photo albums. So you can type, and they fit in the typewriter really well. So you can type little like narrative to the photo albums. Like, this is the summer I spent in Berlin, blah, 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 blah. So I love them for that. So I love them. So Charlie asked after, okay. So Charlie said he traveled for 6 months through India and Asia, and his Swiss Army knife, the big blade on his Swiss Army knife is stuck. And how should he clean it? So clean it with like soap and water and a toothbrush. Speaking of Japan, I got this in Japan for 80 yen, which is like, I don't know, 60 cents. This beautiful bamboo giant toothbrush. So you get all the crap out of there. You open all the blades, sort of like not all the way. You have to be careful. You can cut the shit out of yourself doing this. You open them up so that the springs are kind of exposed, and you scrub all that, soap and water, running water, whatever. It's all stainless, doesn't matter. And then you let it completely dry. And then you go into all these little joints here, and with either 3-in-1 oil, just like 1 drop per thing, and then you like with the blade, or this stuff I've really gotten into lately. This is like firearms. It's for cleaning and lubricating guns, and I think it's might even be cheaper than 3-in-1 oil. If the blade is like jammed, you can clear the little channel that the blade opens in with like a screwdriver or something. And then you can like take the blade. These things are pretty tough, and just work it back and forth to like spread out the binding system. I've taken these apart and put them back together, and that should free it up. And then, yeah, it's like getting a tune-up for your car. It's so nice. The things like snap out more easily. So that's how you do that. How has having a small creature in your household affected your work? What disruptions? It's just there's a less time. The new baby, and it's getting better now because we have help, and it's past like, so there's just less time, and it was like I was just less productive. I couldn't get as much done. That's all. That's what it is. I'm still recovering from it. How much fear do you feel on a daily basis? I would say no conscious fear. I don't really feel the sensation of conscious fear, but you do all these weird things that are rooted in fear. You know what I mean? Like screaming or lashing out or stuff, and that stuff on a daily basis. I don't know. I'm getting better and better with it. But do you have fear as you start any task for a project? I have a perverse relationship with fear. So like if I'm doing something and there's a little bit of fear in it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be, can't wait to see how this turns. Like with the wheelie thing, that's what the wheelie thing was about. because that, I don't know if anybody's ever tried it with like a motor, but like, god damn, it's scary. You have to do hundreds of them just to be able to like kind of get an idea for what you're supposed to be trying to achieve, because it's all done on feel. But like every time it's like, it's just dread. It's just like, oh, come on. So that's the relationship I've developed with fear. And then I don't do anything that's like super, super terrifying. Like, I'm not like, if it's terrifying and requires competence, like I just don't do it because I'm gonna get hurt or killed. But like, I gotta go. Sometimes it's not, since the pandemic, this hasn't happened, but there, sometimes I gotta get up and talk in front of like a couple thousand people or 1,000 people or whatever. And it's like you're walking up the steps. There's like 4 steps up to the stage, and it's like you're on fire. But then I have I just am like, oh no, can't wait to see what happens. This just say what you're gonna say, and it just kind of vanishes like that. But that's something you develop. I was like a terrified little kid because Gen X kid. I was like, my mom was a teenager when I was born, and it was just all babysitters and like fucking chaos. My mom was a teenager when I was born. So that means when I was like growing up, all the people around me were like teenagers, were like 22 years old and stuff. Like it was just wild. And it was the 70s. So it was like just wild chaos. And so everything was absolutely terrifying, and it was totally unpredictable and whatever. So maybe I went like that helped me with my fear training. And then one of the things I learned as I was growing up is like all the things I wanted to do that were scary. I was just the part of the tax of being able to do it. Like getting on a ski lift for the first time, a chairlift that's 40 feet up off of the ground back in the day, they didn't even have the bars. Some of them didn't have the bars that come down in front of you. And you're on a chair 40 feet. Like you just had to like, and you've never been on skis before, and you have to just be like, all right. I don't know. I just have kind of a perverse relationship with that. Like if it's scary, it's like, I don't know. It's a sign of good things to come. Maybe that's my relationship. Okay. What description? Oh, I skipped somebody else. I skipped Misha's questions about the new boots are working out fine. They're a little baggy in the at the ball of my foot, but I intend to get the custom made ones, which will fit me perfect. So I don't care. They're waterproof, which is so fucking cool because you can just walk in streams and stuff, and they're like truly waterproof. Not a drip gets in there. Okay. Does fear in your personal life cross over into your work? Not really. I mean, fear it's a useful emotion. I mean, it's there for a reason. You have to understand that fear should just open up an analysis of like, okay, I'm going to spend all this money on this thing and it's scary to do, but what are the consequences if I don't? And what are the consequences if I do? And then you just gotta, what are you going to do? You just got to do it, right? So this is from Eric, and he's a high school wrestling coach, and he says like, what are my thoughts on college? My thoughts on college are if your ambition requires college, then go to college. If you need a license to do something, an engineer or architect or whatever, then go. Don't quit. You have to do the thing that you're going to do because it's just, you have to do it. Okay. And then, if you want to be an officer in the military or whatever, but I would say that there are very few, especially creative jobs that require college. And I kind of have a bone to pick with because of all these like these Nazi encampments on all these elite universities. I have like a disgust for the American, especially like the elite colleges. So I don't know. I think, just read books and be with interesting people and get really good at something. And, I kind of really don't. I mean, if you love reading books and writing tons and tons of papers, then yeah, go to college. But if you want to make money and have a career and blah blah blah, I think college is a bit obsolete. It's a bit like, for my era, it was an advantage to go to college. But as soon as you cross over into the millennial era, where like 99.99997% of all millennials went to college, have a 4-year degree, it's like, well, okay, but there's something called supply and demand. You're a gigantic cohort, and we don't have any electricians, and the electricians I know are multimillionaires that have like planes and stuff. So, and then the college people are all in debt working at Starbucks or driving Ubers. So I don't know. And just, yeah. But if you need the license, if you're smart and you need the thing, go to college. If not, just read the books, listen to podcasts. This is the difference. Move to New York. Michael asks, deeply personal question coming. Oh, this is the last ones. Whoa. Okay. How did you decide which advice? Oh, this is good. Kevin asked this. I love this question. How do you decide which advice to take when you hear conflicting recommendations for the same situation, both of which sound compelling, logical? All right. You ready? This is going to piss you off. Dead to rights, both sides. And you are in the middle. You have to make this decision. Flip a coin. And I am not bullshitting. Flip a coin. Because it's like, oh, that's God. Bing. What does God say to do? Boing, heads. Fine. I'm moving to Arizona or whatever the hell it is. And I'm serious. I think this is weird, but there's got to be like a Shakespearean play or something about this stuff. But I think like for these super consequential decisions you have to make, like what am I going to do for a living? Where am I going to live? Who am I going to marry? I think that you shouldn't be rational. You should be a bit, I mean, almost completely irrational. It shouldn't be a rational decision, especially if you're a creative kind of person, because your subconscious is telling you something. There's more to the story. There's like your senses, your spidey senses are interpreting stuff, and to just think and analyze it, it's not going to serve you as well as just being crazy. That's why, I love the Jack and the Beanstalk story so much. It's like you got to have faith in like just turning your life over to a, power outside of yourself. It's terrifying, but so I think flip a coin, man. If it's dead even, flip a coin. And it's so liberating. It's so liberating, but you got to stick to it. Stick to it. Okay. Deeply personal question incoming. Well, I mean, it's a live stream, so it's from Michael. After becoming sober, did your creativity suffer, improve, or stay the same? I've been through a horrible mental state of mind, which I'm out of now, but I'm struggling to get back to where I was to even get going again. It suffers. It certainly suffers. Your creativity suffers because you don't have, that getting sober is like a process. It's like it's a year, at least a year of like biochemical transition and psychological rewiring your brain. But I think it gets deeper, and I think I'm like I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been 20, this is year 24 for me, working in the same medium with the same like equipment, doing the same stuff. And there are all these phases and like, I don't know. I mean, there are, these kids, like Amy Winehouse died when she was 27. She made all that. She didn't put no 24 years into it, or River Phoenix or Jimi Hendrix or any of these guys that die, these people. And so there's an ecstatic phase. That's the beginning. That's like the beginning of the marriage. But then as an old timer, Herzog's still cranking those movies out, man. He's almost 80. He's still making them, dude. Oh, and these things are exhausting and hard to make. And you just get this like wife kind of relationship with the creativity where it's just so deep. And if you're lucky and fortunate that you have this medium that you've been with the whole time, you're just gonna keep doing it. And if you forsake it, like Amy Winehouse, where she didn't show up to concerts, something bad's gonna happen. In her case, she died. And in who's that guy? That not Luther Vandross. Oh fuck, what's his name? He was in the movie Supermensch. Fuck, what's his name? He was one of these incredible singers, and he stopped showing up to. He skipped a performance. He didn't show up, and then he got in a car wreck and broke his neck. Teddy Pendergrass, is that it? Maybe. Yeah, you forsake your gift, you're in trouble. So you just got to stick with it. And but it definitely suffers. Oh my God, yeah. The whole, one of the reasons why this stuff is helpful: drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, partying, women, all that stuff. Fuel is fuel. It's super helpful for making this stuff, especially like coming up with innovative ideas and everything. Your mind is so limber when you're on those drugs and working. So yeah, it definitely suffers, but only in a kind of a superficial level and in an ease level. But once you have a more mature relationship with the work that you're doing, people are identifying most. I've been doing this shit forever, and people are identifying most with the stuff that I'm doing now as like a nearly 50-year-old guy. Like, I'm not a hip young guy. So I don't know. It helped. Getting sober was like the biggest favor you can really do for yourself. And it puts you at an edge because most people who are inclined to addiction don't get sober. And a lot of people in this field are inclined to addiction. So you got an edge on them. And sober teaches you all this new magic. Sobriety teaches you all these new. I think sobriety with the program. I think you got to do it with the AA program because there's some fucking wizardry going on there that we don't really get. And it's like the same kind of it's the same ingredients of like what the major religions are, but it's not a religion. There's no central character. There's no leader. Like, sometimes you get to an AA meeting and guess what? You're the leader. Sometimes they're like, hey, you want to be the chair? You want to lead this one? And you're like, and you just don't say no. Just like, all right, give me the book, give me the little folder, and I'll do the things. AA is a group of 5 individuals, So yeah, sobriety is super helpful, but it does kind of screw your creativity. All right. Oh, wait, whoa, there's one more. Okay, this is one more. Can you discuss developing a healthy relationship with technology? Oh, that's an awesome question. I love it. From Andrew. All right, so this is a good prescient question. So there's there's like, if you listen to podcasts and your algorithms, like I listen to so many podcasts and I listen to them on YouTube, and YouTube has an insanely great podcast. Algorithm, so it's feeding you all this stuff. So if you listen to a lot of podcasts, there's inevitably you're going to be hearing a lot of like AI centric doomsday / utopia banter in that space, and things peak and fall off. Like, the phone is not. This is it. This is the paradigm we've landed on. It's touch screen based, it's app based, it has a camera, and it's not going to it's not going revolutionary better than this. And I suspect that with technology in general, I mean, we're at this insane era of technological progress for the past, I don't know, discovery of petroleum, invention of the steam engine, I don't know, last 150 years or something. I think that shit is coming to a conclusion. That like insane acceleration of, I know they'll show you all the charts, and I've read Pinker and all this stuff, and the processors and all of that stuff. But this is just a new idea I have. Like, I just think that people are it's getting stupid. It's like my toaster is connected to the internet, and it's like, it's beyond useful now. And people like go look at old cars. Go look at cars and see how unbelievably expensive old cars are, because people are sick of having computers and everything. And the new car, and also there's a whole genre of YouTube videos, also in my algorithm. Essentially, cars made after 2010, they're not fixable. And cars made around 2010, you can't get the parts anymore. So you buy a Bentley, a 2010 Bentley, and you need the control module for the airbags or whatever. You can't get it, or it's it's $2,000. Normally, it's like a $50 part, because the planned obsolescence is now in the cars. And I think that we've also been on this crazy ride of prosperity, which has enabled all this computer development. I think that it's going to be background. And I think that you have to just kind of choose the technological things that you like that make your life better. Like, I don't want a car with computers in it. I want as little. Okay, here's like my, if something if a product requires an app, including a restaurant, I won't buy it. I don't use it. I don't want it. I'm not interested. I don't care. If I have to download an app and use my phone to use the thing, I don't care. There's nothing you can offer me that's good enough for that. Okay. But you got to figure out where your like sweet spot is. I have no sense of direction whatsoever. So Google Maps is like really great for me, and allows me to go anywhere, and the translator stuff. And I think the thing is just I try to spend as little time with the computer as possible. People ask me about 3D printing, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to do it. I don't want to spend even more. I want to spend less time with these computers than, I love you guys, but I want to spend less time with these computers and more time doing, fixing the stuff with a little tiny silicone rubber band. But to develop a healthy relationship with technology, I think you have to kind of keep it fun and develop all these little systems where you don't need it. And like, is the technological convenience replacing the pleasure of the inconvenience? Because that's the story for Gen X, I think, because we were the last analog generation. And I think if you're younger than us, what you kind of you have faint memories of from childhood is that this convenience has replaced pleasure, because it was fun. It was awesome to have to go down to Virgin Megastore at fucking before they closed at 2 a.m. or whatever, because you just had to hear blah, blah, blah song, and you had to go interact with people and dig through in the lines, and people were more social and stuff. And I came up with this thesis in that, like, everything peaked in 2008. Like, 2008 was the best year of my life. And I have this thesis, like, iPhone had been out for a year. They had the iPhone. They had nonlinear digital video editing. They had basically all the same shit we have now in 2008. But then there was a whole bunch of stuff that has like apps at restaurants, and like inconvenient, like convenient for the business owner to have it be technologically best, but not convenient or pleasant for you. And yeah. And if you get really sick of it, you can just if you go to like poorer countries, which is every country in the world, if you're from America, you go back in time. You can go back in time with the like technology stuff. Probably not if you go to Singapore or Emirates or like, Dubai or whatever. It's probably hell with like, oh, here's an app. Just put an app on your phone. So that's I don't know. That's a non-answer to your great question. Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Sorry I was 5 minutes late with my technological difficulties. And take care. We're going to get some good stuff out for you. Bye.